Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford. You may be busy this Christmas Eve, you may not be able to get out to church, you maybe just want a Christmas message, I don't know. But whatever it is, we've got one for you from Luke chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. I love Christmas carols, and I particularly love the carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem. And the first verse really sums up these verses. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see you lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. I think that sums up the fact that Jesus seems to slip into history almost unnoticed. It wasn't big news. There was big news at that time. There was a massive census going on, which we read about in verses 1 and 2 of the Roman world. And that was big news because they only happened about every 14 years. And we read in verse 4, so Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judah, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and expecting a child. Luke really just lays out the events in a really matter-of-fact way. Joseph travels back to Bethlehem. Why? Because he's got family there, and that's where he originates from. And Luke continues to treat the rest of this as almost incidental. Verses 6 and 7. While we're there, the time came for a baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. But despite the fact Luke just gives us the facts, something quite extraordinary is happening through these events. Bethlehem is significant. Way back, hundreds of years before Luke wrote his gospel, we read in Micah, who was a prophet, Micah chapter 5 and verse 2, but you, Bethlehem, Ephraim, though you're small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who rules over Israel. Something big's happening here, isn't it? In fact, it's bigger than just a ruler. Yes, Jesus is king. Jesus is worthy of the worship of a king, but something more is going on. And we actually see that in Matthew's gospel, in his account, in Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. He's told about Mary that she will give birth to a son, and you will give him the name Jesus, because he will save people from their sins. And then it just references what prophets had written earlier. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will be with child and give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Not just is a king coming, but Jesus is literally God with us. On the face of it, everything seems so inconsequential. But what's the point Luke is making? God is fulfilling all his promises he has made over the years. He is actually directing the events. To go back and quote O little town of Bethlehem, one of the verses then says, the third verse, how silently the wondrous gift is given. So God imparts to human hearts the blessings of his heaven. No ear may hear his coming, but in this world of sin, where meek souls still receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. Sin is our rebellion against God. But Christmas says if we humble ourselves, if we come to God, confessing our sin, confessing we've rebelled against him, Christ will enter in. Have a wonderful Christmas day when you get there, but don't forget to give Jesus the centre place of Christmas. Thank you for listening.